Welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders
and the TV show Wings
and all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
This is Valerie Temple.
I'm Rachel Cox. Good evening, Val.
Hi, Rachel. I missed you. Welcome back.
So we tried to record last night on the 4th of July and there was fireworks in both of our backgrounds.
Right. It sounded like we were under attack from all sides.
It was intense. Yeah. Can you imagine trying to edit that out?
It would not have happened.
So we had to reschedule for tonight. That was kind of good because I was able to watch a second episode of the show. I feel like I have a more nuanced take on the show.
Oh, that's
Did you watch it?
Yes, I did. I watched 3 episodes.
It does seem like it really varies from episode to episode, and I wish I'd be able to see more. But I do have my memories. I want to also say thank you to Aaron for filling in for me last week because that episode was so professional between you two. So researched, so calm. There's no giggling or like trying to remember names of things.
He had like natural segues.
Yes.
I was like, wow, look at this. Look how
He's trying to work his way in.
I know. He's coming for you. It's like an All About Eve type of situation where he's just waiting for his opening.
Hold on to your hats, boys. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Yeah, you got it.
So I've been concocting this little erratic plan that if in the case that I have to homeschool Oscar. So apparently when you homeschool a kid, you really only need like 2 or 3 hours to do actual instruction because the rest of it is filler.
Oh, really?
I mean, for elementary school, I mean, you're really just working on like reading and writing. A lot of it is them finishing worksheets and then like waiting for whatever the next thing is. So I was like, well, what would I do to fill up the time? Because that's what actually makes me really anxious. But I thought, like, what if I made him watch a classic movie every afternoon and then like write 3 sentences about it? Could I get him used to the cadences and vibe and like plot structure of old films?
I think that is actually very useful work because so many people out there have no patience for anything older than 1970. It's very frustrating to me. I actually tried to show All About Eve to Aaron and we had to turn it off because he was just so bored.
Right. He doesn't like old movies.
He likes old movies, but not as old as I go. You know,
right.
Like I like a 1930s, 40s, 50s type of movie, and that's not for him.
I did see on Twitter some old movie theater has been for sale since it screened its last film, and the last film it screened was Scooby-Doo. So when I was looking at some of the old apps where you can stream old movies, the best selection is Turner Classic Movies, but they don't have a streaming option.
The best streaming service of all time, hands down, was the TCM streaming service Filmstruck that got shut down probably over a year ago because of, I don't know, there's like all of these backdoor things happening where there's big plans to do a Warner Brothers streaming service that hasn't come together yet. And the people who owned Filmstruck just sort of wanted to focus on that. And also Filmstruck was so good because it took a lot of work and you could tell that they really cared about it and money went into it. And I think the subscribership of it just didn't justify how much money they were putting into it. And the big buckety bucks were just like, who cares?
Well, maybe they will come up with something because, you know, they're talking about Disney Plus for so long and it eventually did come out and it's pretty good.
In the meantime, I'm biding my time with the Criterion Collection.
I'm more interested in The Thin Man than
Ingmar Bergman.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I think you'd like this because it's like a mix. The thing that pushed me over the edge was I saw that they were doing a series on Judy Holliday and I was like, oh, yes, okay.
Maybe I'll do that one because my parents have cable, of course. So I said, well, you know, I could try to ascertain their password and username. So my mom basically said, no, don't change the password. I said, well, how could I change it if I don't know it? She said, just don't change it. I said, I can't change it because I don't know what it is. So they didn't know what the password was. They gave me one, it didn't work. And then she just said, well, don't change it. And I said, well, if you give me the account number, I could find out what it is. She said, but then you have to change it. I said, yeah, but you don't know what it is now. Does it matter if it's different than the thing you already don't know what it is? When I change it, I'll tell you what it is.
Then it solves everyone's problem.
She wasn't having it, Val. She wasn't having any part of this.
That sounds like a classic mom conversation, by the way, where you're like, you're not making sense.
My dad does have a wall of Post-it notes with all his passwords on it by his computer.
I have a piece of paper that has been folded and unfolded so many times that it is basically coming apart at the seams, but I have yet to tape it. It's just shreds of paper that I keep in my date book or whatever.
I think I'm living on borrowed time. I mean, at some point, someone's going to hack into my secret Google document where I keep all my passwords.
Uh-oh, don't tell anybody.
Wow.
That's a challenge.
I named it something that I thought no thief would want to open open, which is wedding guest list. So we are here to talk about Two Guys and a Girl, which started its life being called Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place.
Great title. Great title.
So good. So funny.
It flows
so
right
long.
off the tongue. It makes me want to watch it. So what's the show
very
about?
little about the pizza place at all. I mean, so it started as a short run, 13 episode mid-season replacement in March of 98. And then it ran for 4 seasons. So this is the latest show we've done. We watched the pilot and then I watched one from the last season. And I just felt dirty the whole time because I'm realizing I'm watching something from 2001. This is not even a 90s show anymore. Like I'm just breaking all my own rules, which is also, I think, why it's really not very 90s.
Although I have to say, it just feels like a straight up Friends ripoff, which seems just so odd to me because what did it start in 1998, 99? It seems so late in the game to be ripping off Friends. The font of the credits is straight up Friends.
When it started, they're kind of a slightly younger demographic. They're supposed to be in grad school. So it's supposed to be like 22, 23-year-olds, I guess.
It actually reminded me of St. Elmo's Fire, where these still in college or recently graduated youngsters who are still in their college town and still sort of, I guess, behaving as if they are in school or getting acclimated to being adults and outside of school. I think St. Elmo's Fire also has like a pizza place hangout.
I don't know if they dropped the pizza place by the 4th season, but I didn't see it in the episode we watched. Okay, so
they do. After season 2, they dropped the pizza place, and that's when they just called it Two Guys and a Girl.
So we watched the pilot, and then we watched an episode from the 4th season. And then what season was the other one you watched?
I watched the 2nd episode of the 1st season.
But that 4th season one felt so much like Three's Company.
Yes.
Like Neil Simon bed hopping, moving from apartment to apartment.
That was a weird episode to watch because it didn't even attempt to move any sort of story forward. It was truly just...
It was kind of like a play, I feel.
Yeah, it was a one-act play about a leaky toilet.
Definitely watched the show. So I must have started watching it. I must have been freshman year of college. What attracted me to him was that he was tall, he was cute, in like a very, as we said, like a puppy way, very...
Oh, Ryan Reynolds.
He was so unsexual though. Like he was kind of goofy. He was very childlike. He would drink juice boxes. For me, who was like sexually inexperienced, that seemed like the perfect guy, right? He's not intimidating, like a child, but also like a cute boy. He ends up sleeping with like every single female character. But the way this show presents sex is so sterile and goofy.
Although it was weird in that season 4 episode that we watched, the whole B plot was about protection.
That's probably the most 90s thing of the whole thing is condoms. Who's got the condoms?
The most 90s thing to me was a line from that first episode, the pilot, where Ryan Reynolds says, "Who poured you a double mocha grumpy today?" Here we got a coffee house joke. There was no context. It was just people drink coffee. That's the joke. But then also, I guess for the first 2 seasons before they dropped the pizza place part of it, the theme song for the TV show was an instrumental version of Blister in the Sun by Violent Femmes. That's very 90s.
That is 90s. So the girl in Two Guys and a Girl is played by Traylor Howard, who basically did this and then was on Monk. I have to hold her up as one of my small-breasted idols of the 90s.
Yes.
There was TLC, Mila Jovovich, Gwen Stefani. Those are the big ones.
You mean small ones?
Those are the big small ones. Gwen Stefani betrayed us, of course. I mean, they all do it in the end.
Yeah.
Aguilera, betrayed.
Betrayed.
Oh, the other big one was Kate Hudson. Again, betrayed.
Betrayed. Oh, what can you do though? The pressures of Hollywood. I would say that Traylor Howard is probably going to stay with the small boobs though, because she stayed with a terrible name. Didn't take the opportunity to change that name.
I realize now it's trailer like a trailer hitch, like a mobile home trailer. I realize
Traylor Howard.
When you see it written, it does just look like Taylor with an R added. But
yeah, but why would you do that? Why would you take a perfectly fine name and make it awful?
They call her Trey. This show also introduced us to Nathan Fillion, who I don't know if he's really famous. I mean, what do you think he's most famous for?
I would say probably he's most famous for Castle. If you're talking about mainstream
normal people,
normies would know him for Castle.
And then what's the Joss Whedon show that he was on?
Firefly.
Firefly.
I didn't even remember that he was on this show. That was a huge surprise to me.
And the other guys, and the two guys, is Ryan Reynolds and Richard Ruccolo, who's really good. I don't remember what else I've seen him in.
Did you know that this show has 2 connections to Saved by the Bell?
No.
Would you like to hear them?
Yes.
Okay, first, Mark Paul Gosselaar auditioned for the part that Ryan Reynolds ended up with, Berg. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. I see it. Tall, blonde, charismatic. The guy who played Pete, Richard Ruccolo, or whatever his name is, he was engaged to Tiffany Thiessen. And they met after she guested on this show.
Wow.
Wow, right?
The show in the 4th season, they put it on Friday night, which was the death knell. But there are some shows that like Friday night's their thing. Like wasn't X-Files on Friday nights? So It's not always, you think it's just only nerd shows that succeed on Friday nights?
Nerd shows and kid shows, sure. This show was for younger people, and it's for people who are going out on Friday. It seems like the show was actually pretty popular until it got moved, and then people just stopped watching it. The Wikipedia page is very long. It seems like somebody cares out there. They showed it on Wii television after it went off the air. It seems like the show kind of had more of a following than I would have guessed because it was funny, but it's so generic. It's just a version of a show we've seen 100 times.
I think all the actors are really good, and I actually think it's pretty funny. It just doesn't really have anything to distinguish it. There's no special sauce, I guess.
This was a show, when I was watching these episodes, all I could think was, man, I'm glad we're living in an era where there are more diverse voices because this is so bland. Can you imagine creating a show? I'm basing it on my life, and my life is I had a friend and another friend, and we lived in Boston. And then that's it. That's all I have to mine from. It's just so boring.
If you are going to make a show about college, you put it in Boston because they've got a lot of colleges.
Yes, they do.
No, I was thinking the same thing. Like, oh man, this show is so white.
It's so white. It's so white.
I mean, the guy who runs the pizza place is black, but then he disappears.
They write him out of the show. So I was, of course, researching the show, and the creator of the show based this on his own life and his experiences going to Tufts University. And then I'm thinking about Ryan Reynolds's character, which is he's such a genius. He doesn't have to try. He just floats through life, sort of being a rascal, but excelling anyway. And I'm like, then why are you at Tufts? You're a genius at Tufts? Okay. I mean, you're in Boston, go to Harvard, right? Or MIT? I don't know. I guess Tufts is where you would go if you're a genius.
Well, he wants to coast. That's the whole thing.
He doesn't want to try. So that's
but then he ends up going to medical school.
It doesn't make sense. I was reading up on what goes on in the show, and these characters all have crazy job transformations.
Nathan Fillion's character is a jukebox repairman.
Yes, he's a jukebox repairman. Then Traylor Howard starts out as a pharmaceutical rep and then ends up being a building manager. And then Pete, he starts out as an architecture student and then ends up being a firefighter.
Well, in between, he's the vice president of a cosmetics company.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that career is building, you can tell. It just sort of felt like they just didn't know what to do with these characters.
Well,
like, how about this?
It was a little too elite, and they were trying to bring in some working class connections,
I guess,
for these characters.
Traylor Howard's character, she seems to be rich at the beginning of the show. They're talking about this Beamer. She works at a chemical company where she's making a bunch of money selling drugs. And I'm like, well, you're still hanging out at this pizza place? What are you doing with your life?
But I actually kind of like the guy in the pilot who gets his life mixed up with movies.
Yes, David Ogden Stiers, aka Winchester from MASH. That character, although it seems limited, I'm like, how many times can you make the same joke? Oh, this is going to get old fast. But he did seem familiar to me as a person who you've been annoyed by at a bar or a restaurant before, just like some old man who's talking your ear off about really nothing. I liked that about it. I think for that character to be long lasting, it needed to evolve at some point, and I think they just decided to write him off the show. They're like,
Accent corner, I guess all I gotta say is there's no Boston accents, and Ryan Reynolds does a good job covering his Canadian accent. The only thing I'd seen him in before this was the Canadian show 15 and one episode of The Outer Limits where he was very young. He was 13 or 14 or something.
Ryan Reynolds definitely had something about him. I remembered him from everything that I saw him in. You can even see it in this show. He's just smoking everybody. He just has charisma to spare, and everyone else is doing a great job too, but they just can't keep up with how incredibly charismatic he is.
It's too good.
He's too good for this format.
I have not thought of a Mad magazine.
Oh, I have a couple.
Okay.
All right. 2 guys, a girl, and a piece of waste.
2 guys hurl in a pizza place.
There you go. Aaron thought a piece of waste was too crude, but I stand by it. Aaron's submission was 2 goons, a gal, get me out of this place.
Sounds reasonable.
It sounds old-timey, at least.
Goons and a gal.
2 goons and a gal.
What was 2 goons and a gal?
Sounds like a Dick Tracy.
I mean, the show is, the performances and the jokes are actually pretty good, but its essence is very bland, and the title of it is very bland.
Very bland. It doesn't have much to say. It's just, here are some people. They're not really doing anything. I did like Ryan Reynolds' character is sort of like a dilettante almost in school, but doesn't really have many aspirations, but he just is great at everything he does. But he is earning money by participating in medical experiments. A lot of the comedy comes from that. I also did that while I was not medical experiments, but when I lived in Boston and attended college in Boston, I also would participate in psychology experiments at Harvard and MIT and earn $50 by participating in some sort of focus group.
So you might be some sort of sleeper agent. You don't know yet.
Yeah. And speaking of sleep, I did try to participate in 2 sleep-related studies because it was a lot of money. I was very poor, so I was like, hey, you'll give me $6,000 for sleeping? That sounds good to me. But neither of them panned out. The one that I got the closest on it was a study about jet lag. And they were going to fly me to Europe, and then I would have to stay at a facility there and then come back, like sleep at a facility and then come back.
But how bad would that have been if you had done that and they'd never let you like walk around or do anything?
That's exactly what would have happened. And then I got washed out of another sleep study because I have an unusual sleep pattern.
Oh.
I am alpha delta, apparently, which means that I don't have any levels in my sleep. I just am either fully awake or dead asleep. I had worn this monitor and they were like, okay, cool. Okay, you can't be in this. You're alpha delta.
I wonder where I am.
Now I use alpha delta as an excuse.
But does that mean when you're in bed, waking or sleeping, do you not ever feel like kind of groggy or like half awake, half asleep?
No, there's nothing in between.
Wow.
I'm out.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not that then.
I feel like that unlocked a secret about myself. I was like, oh, alpha delta. All right.
Sounds like the name of a covert government operation.
Yeah, it sounds like a TV show that I should write.
I dated a guy once who was so hard up for cash that he did a heart medicine. He had to sleep overnight somewhere, but he was going to take medication. I think he didn't get to the final trial or something. But yeah, if they're giving you $6,000 and not being very picky about who they choose, then that would be very sketchy. I was signed up once to do these online UX tests. It's kind of fun because when you're sitting at a computer, they're just sending you things and asking like, can you interpret this material? And I would look at the criteria and it would always just be like, do you use a drill every day? No. Okay, sorry, you can't participate in the study. Do you own a multi-seater Sprinter van? No. Okay, well, you can't be in the study. Like, I must have applied for hundreds of them and got eliminated because it was just some bizarre. There was only one that I got through on, and it was, I think it was Doritos. And they were showing me all these different bags. Like, which bags do you like? It was gonna be like a new spicy Dorito or something. And I was very happy to look at all the different.
I would have loved to look at a lot of bags of Doritos.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
Sounds like a dream to me.
So we can move on to what you're watching, I guess.
Yeah, baby.
I have not been able to finish AP Bio. I just lost my emotional attachment to it.
That's on the back burner for me, but not for any particular reason. I've been really busy lately.
Yes, me too. I do want to say there's a movie I watched that was So horrible. Greg and I watched it. Judd Apatow's This Is 40. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I didn't hate it. There are Judd Apatow movies I hate more than that.
I don't know which other directors do it. He's known for having a lot of ad-libbing. They would call it improv. It's more just ad-libbing. I mean, it's just, the movie is so long.
It's like 2.5 hours long.
It's 2.5 hours. We watched it in two sittings. It's just a lot of people repeating themselves over and over again because it's like not edited and the dialogue is not crafted well. And his wife and his two daughters are 75% of the cast. It was such a vanity project. You can just sense that his wife's like, well, when are you going to put me in a movie? She's okay, but like, is she who you would have picked?
There's a lot of bland blondes out there. It's not like she sticks out as awful. It's not like this movie would be so much better with a different actress. No, it would be the same. In that way, she proves her mettle, I guess.
Well, as someone who recently turned 40, I maybe got a little excited about it, but it really didn't hit home for me because it's just about these like insanely rich people in LA and they're realizing that all their businesses are failing. And Greg and I are like, they're literally living in a $5 million house.
It's not relatable at all. The one thing that sticks out to me as memorably funny is one of the celebrity cameos. He was a musician. He's wearing like a Oreos baseball cap.
They said like he loves Oreos.
Oreos, like the food. That's the highlight of the movie to me, which is not saying much, truly.
Basically, the whole movie was Greg and I saying, my God, look how big their bathroom is. They're living in a mansion.
Right. It's like watching a Nancy Meyers movie where you're like, wow, look at Meryl Streep's kitchen. Love it. It's so huge. I started watching that show Starstruck. Have you heard about this?
Oh, is it British? Is it British?
Yes. The creator of the show is from New Zealand.
It pops up on my Instagram all the time.
It's on HBO Max.
Okay.
And it is good.
Okay.
It's a romantic comedy and it's very short. There's 6 episodes and they're 22 minutes each. So you'll just blast right through it. It's like a Notting Hill type story. She's very funny and charismatic.
Someone told me recently why movies are so long now. And I feel dumb that I didn't realize this before. I couldn't figure out why they were so long because if anything, theaters lose money. Mm-hmm. And they said, no, it's for when it airs on TV. You can squeeze in more commercials.
Ugh.
But doesn't that make sense?
I guess so.
Because like comedies now are 2 hours long. I'm just shocked at how long everything is.
And no one wants it. No one wants it. More often than not, I'm watching a movie and I come away with it thinking that could have been 45 minutes shorter. It was good, but it would have been better if it was 45 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
There's just like a lot of padding out there. You really have to really prove to me that a movie should be over 2 hours long. Mm-hmm. A movie should be under 2 hours.
Yes. We need to start a movement. We need to start a nonprofit. Get these shorter.
I know, exactly. Or turn them into Mayor of Easttown. You know, like turn them into a mini series. Yeah. If you need it to be as long as that. I don't need to sit there for the whole thing.
Talking about things that are too long. The other thing I watched is, you know, the Arthur C. Clarke book, Childhood's End?
Yes.
In the 60s. Okay. So that's one of my favorite books. It's almost a novella. It's a really, really short book about basically aliens coming down to Earth and fixing all the problems on Earth. And everyone's like, oh, this is so great. For 20 years, they're just like happy. It turns out that their whole plan was they were going to have all the children mind meld with the hive mind of the universe. And all the children one day just like float away. And then humanity is gone. But they stretched this book. The book's probably less than 200 pages. Sci-Fi Channel stretched it into a miniseries, which is 3 hour-and-a-half long episodes. It was excruciating because I know what was happening. I'm like, they're just adding so much stuff to this.
You're like, why? What is the point? What is the point?
Books like that in the 60s, they're not emotional books. They're very stylized, technical, theoretical. Characters come in and out, and like they were just really trying to create some sort of emotional connection between the audience and these various characters. And of course, like the actors are terrible because it's Sci-Fi Channel. And I always think maybe I could be an actor in Sci-Fi Channel. I mean, these people are horrible.
I mean, you could. Like, you should give it a go.
I tried acting a little bit in the mirror, and I was like, it is pretty hard though. Like a dramatic. Don't leave me behind.
What I've been really busy with is these film camps that I've been doing at the film school. And they're for teens and they're writing their own scripts. And when we were producing them, I was like, there's a lot of limitation on who they can cast. If they're wanting an adult in their script, there's not a lot of adults who are readily available. So I ended up being in a couple of them. And it was very hard on my self-esteem because it was just like, middle-aged waitress. Val, you should play that. How about middle-aged cranky mom? Val, you could do that. One of the girls, she's like, the teacher said I should meet with you to talk about costumes and makeup. I was like, okay, yeah. Is there anything you specifically want me to wear to look like the mom you envision? She's like, honestly, everything I've seen you worn would work. So just keep doing what you're doing. I was like, how about hair and makeup? And she's like, it's perfect. And I'm like, jeez.
I mean, I find that hard to believe. Perhaps she was just trying to make it easy on you.
Whatever you want, kid. It's the reality of the situation. I just have to grapple with it. This is 40 Judd Apatow. These kids.
All you can do is be better than you were yesterday.
Yeah, these kids just like telling you the truth about yourself, unabashedly, casually just reading you to filth, you know? Ouch.
Okay.
All right.
Next time I'll see you, we will be in person.
That's right.
Finally going to see Cleveland.
Yay, Cleveland.
Cleveland rocks.
Cleveland rocks.
This has been Sliders and Wings with Val and Rachel.
That's right. You can email us at slidersandwings@gmail.com. Have a good night, Rachel.
You too. Bye.
Bye.